I'm not gonna fight your war. I'm gonna end it.
Hey guys, it's Alex here from the Daily Cinema, and today we're going to be doing a Captain Marvel movie review / discussion. The first half is going to be non-spoilers, and then the second half is going to be spoilers. This is going to be just one of the upcoming movie discussions / reviews that I'm going to be doing and having different guests on. So today we have Christian and Peter, and so yeah, let's just get right into it with our overall thoughts. So Christian, what do you... Just overall thoughts.
I thought the movie was good. It kind of started out slow, and then it started to pick up the pace through the middle, and then it was enjoyable to watch, but it's another origin story. It's not the greatest movie in the world, but it's also not terrible.
All right. I thought it was a really good movie overall, but Marvel movies kind of are held to higher standards, and I think overall in the Marvel scale of things, it's a little in the middle. It's in the middle.
See, I think that you kind of need to take that into account because we've built up for the past, 11 years with all the MCU films, and this is the one right after a huge film and right before a huge film, so the expectations are going to be high regardless. But I feel like just going into the film, like tempering your expectations and realizing that this is an introduction to an important character that is going to play a big role in the next movie. Just going into the movie like that really made me enjoy it more because I wasn't expecting an Iron Man or an Infinity War level movie. I was just expecting to have fun and have it be a fun space adventure in the 90s,
Yeah, I thought it's just hard when you have so many mashup movies where you have Civil War, where it's Iron Man and Captain America going and pitting themselves against each other, and then they're getting their own super teams to fight each other, or something like after following up Infinity War, where you have so many Marvel characters to use, and then after going from the biggest with the most to one with somebody by themselves with a supporting character like Nick Fury, who I thought did awesome in the movie, but it's just harder for them to make a movie like that without using their other characters.
Yeah, it was kind of like a nice change of pace because we go from like Infinity War, where it's more about plot, not really about character development, to going to Captain Marvel, where like basically the whole plot is about her character development.
Yeah, and I think that what Christian said kind of plays into why I enjoyed the movie so much, which is Ant-Man and the Wasp, when it came out last year, was supposed to be a break from like the big tentpole massive CGI films, but in reality it felt kind of dull and boring, at least to me. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but what this movie did, it did the whole let's take a break from these massive films. Even though this is a massive movie, it's not really massive in the way of this is the end all be all like Avengers Endgame or Infinity War. It's just let's take a break and introduce this character who is going to be completely badass in the next film. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's going to be huge in the next film, and that's why they had to put it in right here at this time. But I feel like it's a good movie to fill in between the gaps between Infinity War and Endgame. But I feel like this film, if it was put in towards the beginning, used with other origin stories and films like that, where that's what we're used to and that's what we're building up to, so we can get to these more collaborated movies. But since we've had so many collaborated back to back, like we had Civil War, then we had Avengers, and we had Ant-Man and the Wasp, and every movie since then has been with other characters. Like even Spider-Man Homecoming's origin story included Iron Man, who was one of the biggest characters in the MCU, and they had somebody to back them up and to fall back on to have that other character there, and they really just don't have that. Even though they have Nick Fury, like I said, he's not a superhero, but he's still good to have in the movie to help.
Yeah, like the last origin story movie we got really was like Ant-Man. Because like Spider-Man Homecoming
Spider-Man
wasn't really an origin story.
It was already Spider-Man.
It was just an introductory.
Everyone's seen every Spider-Man movie since then,
Yeah.
and they know who he is.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see a movie that showed a good origin story like that. Because I feel like the way that she got her powers and the way like her character changed over the film was really important. and it's gonna be important later on in like Avengers Endgame and stuff.
It gets a little predicting, like you can kind of see what's coming. Well, there's a few turns in there where there's unexpected moments, but for most of the film, you can kind of see where the film's going to go and where it's going to take itself.
Yeah, and back to that whole idea of it's more of an origin story. I thought that was a real nice breath of fresh air to the big spectacle of it all, you know. And what this film really does right is it feels like a movie that knows its character and knows where she starts and where she needs to go. And I just enjoyed the whole ride from beginning to end. Even though some parts may have not been paced the best or written the best, I just enjoyed the character. And I love Brie Larson in the role. And yeah.
I thought Brie Larson did pretty good, and after them being able to see how well Wonder Woman did when that came out for DC, and then they got to make their own spin on it, which they did a very good job on. And for bringing in a character in like that, to have a good movie that brings them in is pretty helpful.
And getting into my kind of negatives, I've seen a lot of people target Brie Larson and say that she maybe wasn't the best in this movie, but I wholeheartedly believe that it's not her. She's doing everything that she can with the role and the writing that she's been given, but the thing is that her writing and some of the lines she's given maybe aren't the best, because you can tell she's all in and she's giving it her all, but some of the writing is a little sketchy and doesn't do her many favors.
I felt like some of the writing that she was given, because she did a really good job, but a lot of the lines that she's given and what she says just kind of comes off a little bit cheesy. But that's just how that writing style worked, and it worked for her. It worked fine. But I think when she's able to work with Endgame and be a part of that her character is going to be able to develop even more than it did in this film, and people are just going to like her even more after that.
Yeah, and seeing her interactions with even like Nick Fury and Agent Coulson in this movie, those were some of the best parts. And like the writing in those instances where it's more comedic really worked more than maybe some previous Marvel films like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, for example. I don't know your feelings on that, but I felt like the comedy in that movie was a little bit overused and over the top at points. Versus this, it's more like scattered everywhere, and it's not overbearing. It's like, okay, there's a joke, let's move on and get the story rolling. So it's not like a big comedy the whole time. It's a mix of action, comedy, and just overall good characterization of this new character that we got introduced to. So
yeah, and I also thought that Nick Fury being in the movie was a really big part of it, because you don't only get to see the origins of Captain Marvel, but it's really nice to see a movie that takes you back with a familiar character, Nick Fury, and you get to see kind of his, not really origin story, but
where he was.
Kind of where he began. And it was really cool to see that.
Yeah, and he had a bigger role in the film, but Agent Coulson had a somewhat smaller role in the film than I expected, because he is introduced as somewhat this newer agent that's not really sure of what he's doing. And I feel like they could have utilized him a little bit better, because he's become he was loved so much in Avengers, the last film he was in 7 years ago. So I just wish he was a little bit bigger part in this movie.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like another role of the movie were the Skrulls.
Oh, yeah.
The Skrulls were super interesting, because I know in the comics they have a really big presence, and it was really cool to see them on screen, like all their abilities and kind of the way they work.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
They used it a lot throughout the movie to maybe get out of a tough situation or even get into a tough situation. And I heard some people saying like maybe it was underutilized, but I think the complete opposite. It was used throughout the movie, and even to a certain extent later in the film, it was used to change it up on us. We'll get into that later, but that's all I'll say now. There's some really cool Skrull moments in there that I loved.
I like how the Skrulls also weren't all CGI, and how they used makeup and costumes, and it wasn't just, because a lot of the movies, when you look at like Guardians of the Galaxy, a handful of them are costumes and they look good, but when you see the CGI ones, they always just comes out looking different and kind of out of place. And the Skrulls is, you can tell that it's makeup or a costume, but I feel like it fits better.
And to go along with like the more special effects, that looked fantastic, as well as the de-aging effects that we saw in this film for Agent Coulson and Samuel L. Jackson. Like, we've seen it before in Ant-Man and the Wasp and Civil War, but those were like blatantly obvious. Even though they still look good, they weren't quite perfected. Versus now in 2019 with this movie is literally impossible to tell. Because the whole movie, they're CGI'd out, but you have no clue. Like, someone who came into this movie not knowing any background, not seeing any trailer, I guarantee you they would just think that it's their normal face, no CGI done. And then the rest of the special effects in the film are pretty good when it gets to big, huge action scenes. They're not like Infinity War level or Black Panther level, but they're still pretty good, especially in like the later space battles and everything. It didn't take me out of the film really, but yeah.
I feel like the special effects for specifically Captain Marvel were really good.
Oh yeah.
Like, all like the spaceship stuff, that was pretty good. It wasn't like anything special really, but Captain Marvel's like laser beams and stuff looked really nice.
Yeah, like seeing her, like how her suit changes and everything.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
That was
like it looked like flawless special effects. It was perfect. I couldn't say more about even just the Skrulls and all their costume design. Captain Marvel's costume design, it all worked very well. The production design looked cool, even on the, what was the planet, Hala?
Hala, yeah.
Hala. That, I was shocked how well they put that world together at the beginning when we were introduced to it. Never seen that before. I haven't read any Captain Marvel comics, so I was just introduced to that, and I was drawn into the story from the very beginning with all those huge, enthralling shots of just the opening city and her waking up and going about her day, you know?
Yeah.
It's like when you get to see Wakanda for the first time when the dome opens up and you're seeing all of the buildings and everything they have made there. It's just a different look, and it's nice to see.
Yeah. And for the overall like pacing and story, plot development, character development, I feel like the first half of the film kind of is a little clunky in terms of story pacing wise, and it jumps around a lot.
Yeah.
Like we show up somewhere, and I was left thinking like, why didn't we see how they got there or all the stuff in between? Even though it may not be the most important thing in the world, it still would be a nice like connective tissue between scenes. But I thought once we get towards the more middle half of the film, when the story like really kicks in, this movie had me right till the end. All the action is great. All the acting is great. The shots, the action itself, like the choreography, fight scenes and everything were good, but the cinematography for the action scenes, I think could have been better in some points, because there's a couple action scenes I can think of off the top of my head where the camera may have been too close, so you're left thinking who's fighting who, I don't know who's fighting, and then
a lot of the scenes were really dark too.
Yeah, there's a dark scene.
There's dark.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, but at certain points it was dark like that, but at other points it got better, you know, as that fight went on. But we can always talk more about that later.
Yeah.
Well, what did you guys think about the 90s setting?
Before we jump into that part, Brie Larson, like if you see what she was doing before, like training wise and everything she put into this so she could be able to play Captain Marvel to her best ability, like she did with all the training and her sparring, and to get all these things down so she wouldn't have to have a stunt double for most of the parts that she was involved in, was awesome. And it just goes in to show how devoted and committed Brie Larson was to this position.
And it really shows in the movie.
Oh,
it shows in the movie too, but the downside of it is how the writing just kind of gives her a few lines that just don't hit home very well.
And I think it's like I feel really bad for her in the sense of people, like yesterday, or today actually, because today's Friday, the audience scores came out for the Rotten Tomatoes, and thousands of people like review bombing it, and so now it has something like a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. Really makes me mad, and I wish that wouldn't have happened, because no one who made this film had the intent of yeah, let's make this film just so people can go out there and just downgrade us. They all put in hard work to make it, even if you think it's bad or it's good. All their work deserves to be acknowledged and rated with the knowledge of seeing the film, because a lot of these people haven't even seen the film. So go out and see the film, and then make up your mind and put out your review. So, because if you like it or you don't like it, your opinion is valid. Just make sure you see the film before you comment on it or anything like that.
Yeah. I feel like people mostly are hating on it just because really no reason. Like,
yeah, it's a good movie. It's just not the upper echelon of Marvel films that I think we've been so used to lately. Like, it's a extremely fun ride of a film, and it's just a great introduction to the character as a whole.
And my expectations going into it were pretty low, because I told you that before.
Yeah.
And I was very happy after I left that movie. It was very satisfying to watch, and like the story was excellent. Everything was great. I don't know why, but like the trailers and the movie, like
Two different things.
Very different. I felt like I watched the trailer and I knew what I was gonna go see,
and it was different.
I did not.
Yeah, because I don't think the trailers really gave me a good idea of what the movie was going to be about, or like the plot development. So, and I don't think, based on how the story unfolds and how it's told, more of a flashback manner, that they could have really shown that in the trailer, you know? So, I'm glad they didn't show all that.
They definitely had a good reason to make the trailers the way they did.
Because in the trailers, the only thing you can really tell from going into it is, here's this superhero, here are the Kree, who are the good guys, and here are the Skrulls, who are the bad guys. She's a Kree, she's fighting the Skrulls are bad,
right.
Kree is good. But when you get into the actual meat of the movie and you get to watch it, then it kind of unfolds differently, and you get to get more of an origin story and less of a generic good guy, bad guy.
Yeah, lots of little, not huge twists, but little small twists to the story that change the character dynamics and just make the film more enjoyable overall. So, ready to get into spoilers?
Yeah, there's lots of spoilers.
So if you have not seen the movie, tune out now and come back and watch the rest of the spoiler review later, okay? So, spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
What did you think of the post-credit scenes?
I thought the post-credit scenes were almost what anybody would guess they would be. I turned, while the credits were rolling and before the scene came out, I looked over at Peter and I said, this credit scene is going to be the Avengers seeing the signal that's being sent out, pick it up, wait for it, she's going to show up and she's going to say some cheesy, where's the fight line, and then it's going to cut out. And that's exactly what happened.
And we were talking after, and we were like, do you think that's part of the film, or it's just like an extra tagline to basically tell the audience that she's already going to be with the Avengers once Endgame starts? So I still think about that now. I don't know whether
I don't think so.
I don't think that they make that a part of the movie, because not everybody's going to go out and see Captain Marvel, because people that aren't super Marvel fans aren't going to go see every single Marvel movie. And when there was so much hype around Infinity War, everybody went and saw it. It doesn't matter if you knew who Spider-Man was or not. And then going into the next one, you can't just throw an entirely new character into the mix for people that are just seeing it because they know it's the next one of the big movie. And they're going to have to give her a proper introduction when they bring her into that.
So you think that's just going to be a scene in the movie?
It looks
the way it was set up looked like it's going to be a scene.
The thing is, if she's introduced like that in Endgame, I feel like that's kind of cheap.
Yeah, it's kind of cheap.
Like if they're looking at her pager and then all of a sudden she shows up, that's kind of jarring.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of weird because if you think about it, if they do bring in Captain Marvel in a different way, then that end credit scene is kind of discredited.
In the trailers you see for Endgame, you see like spots where Captain Marvel could have been. So that hints to the theory that she may already be.
I don't think she's gonna be there
maybe shortly after the beginning.
I think it'll show her maybe it'll show her like flying into the atmosphere or something.
It's gonna give her own how
they'll like talk to her or whatever.
Kind of how when Infinity War was broken up into pieces and parts of different people doing different things. it's going to go and it's going to give you the space and it's going to give you a throwback song for the introduction of her, and it's going to come in from a high camera angle, like
maybe like a 90s song.
Like a 90s song's going to be playing, and it's going to drone in, and she's going to be doing something on her own, and that is when it's going to bring her in.
What did you guys think about the twist with the scroll leader?
Well, wait, before we talk about that, remember, I want to talk about the very opening, like the Marvel, like, you know how they always have the Marvel.
Oh, Stanley, yeah, that was perfect.
I love that.
I like that.
That was absolutely perfect. And that was a nice tribute to Stan Lee. And then the cameo later in the movie, he's just sitting on the train, and then she's looking for scrolls, and then she sees him reading, and then she just looks and smiles. I thought that was an absolutely beautiful moment. That was one of my favorite parts of the entire movie.
Mm-hmm. And I expected them to like do something at the end. Yeah. It's like in memory of Stan Lee, but the way they did the opening like that, it was perfect. It was perfect. Everyone in the theater started clapping.
I feel like that'll definitely have a... Stan Lee's not going to be a superhero in Endgame, but I feel like they'll definitely give a little bit more of a thank you, Stan Lee, for everything, and it's going to be put towards the end of the film. But Nick Fury's... I know it's out of the blue, but the whole time they're teasing him losing his eye. And
that was kind of
so at the beginning he gets a little scratch from the car accident, and he's left bleeding on the top of his eye, and it's like, oh, is he going to get his eye lost? And then the way he loses his eye might be the most pathetic thing they could have done for the film. It's the cat, the Flurkin, that claws his eye, and he just loses his eye.
I'm gonna come back to the cat, but the scene at the end where he gets the thing of eyes, I thought that that didn't really work that well for me.
Yeah, I didn't really like that too much.
Yeah, but back to the cat, Goose. A nice tribute to Top Gun. But what did you think of Goose the cat?
I liked Goose the cat. It was almost like a... I wouldn't say you can compare it to Baby Groot, but it's kind of I can see that. You carry him around, he's with like, you, but he's not doing anything. But then right at the very... Just like Infinity War, you have teenage Groot who's now always on his phone and doing nothing. This cat's just kind of there and in the way, and when it comes to crunch time, that's when the cat, the Flurkin, ends up actually contributing to what they're doing.
If you haven't seen like Guardians 1, you wouldn't expect Baby Groot to be able to put up a fight against anyone. Same thing here. You just see a cute cat that Nick Fury is holding around the whole time, and little do you know he can shoot tentacles out of his mouth or whatever that was. I don't even know what that was.
I like that. But I don't know. It's kind of when the cat gets brought in and he's petting the cat at the beginning and it just always keeps showing up, you kind of have like the thought in the back of your mind, like, why is this cat here and what is it going to do? And then it finally does something and it makes sense.
I thought it was going to be a scroll because it was following around and stuff, and I was like, scrolls.
There's a lot of people that I thought were going to be scrolls, but weren't.
Yeah, they kind of used it a little bit less than I thought they would.
I guess.
But like they used it a lot, but not in super big ways.
Yeah, they used it in effective ways. Like the twist was a really effective way, which I thought tied well into a message about today's society, with when you have the scrolls ultimately being the ones who are targeted instead of the Kree being targeted by the scrolls. What do you think about that twist?
Kind of how like Captain Marvel thought she was the good guy, but she really wasn't.
Yeah, like she was a part of the team that was in the right, but then when what's his name?
I don't even know that guy's name.
What is his name?
The captain guy?
The sparring guy.
Wait,
the main scroll guy shows up at Talos. Shows up at Captain Marvel's friend's house in Louisiana, and that whole twist is revealed. I thought that whole moment was very well delivered, and it really changed the dynamic for the rest of the film. And that's about the point where the movie really got like fantastic for me. I don't know about you guys, but
once the Skrull shows up to her friend's house in Louisiana is when the movie started to become enjoyable for me. Because in the beginning, it just kind of felt like the cliche origin story.
That's very generic.
Yeah, it's like every other. She's destined for greatness, but she doesn't know her full power yet, and then she finally learns her way. And it's kind of how most origin stories go, but it was still good and enjoyable once you get to the end and the action scenes. But once you do get to the end and she starts understanding her full potential, when Ronan comes in, which I thought was cool that they tied Ronan in, but I didn't like how he looked.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand that they're making him look younger, but he doesn't have his war paint, and he just doesn't seem as scary or as powerful as he does when he's in the first Guardians film. And also, it's kind of I don't know if there's a name for it, or the cliche that here's the superhero or the villain that can do so much power and so much destruction, but when it's going up against another villain or hero, it's just like it turns into a fist fight. Because you see her take through, and there's 3 ships in Ronan's fleet, and she just, by herself, with her body, takes out an entire one of the ships and goes straight to the other one and takes that one out too. And then, for some reason, she just floats in front of Ronan and just kind of just stands there and looks at him.
She was scaring him off because she just destroyed all these other things.
Yeah,
so
why
she's like, you want to be
Well,
destroyed?
why doesn't she? He's the leader of the Kree. She destroyed the other hero. She destroyed the other 2, and I guarantee you there are people on that. But then when she looks at the big bad Ronan, she just kind of lets him.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of just for the sake of.
Obviously she could have killed him, but I feel as if maybe if she takes through and it turns into more of a flight race or chase scene, then it makes a little bit more sense. But the fact that she just kind of stood there and looked at him and he just kind of put it in reverse and pulled out of there, it was just kind of
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying about her origin, I feel like it was really cool the way we kind of see it through her eyes, where all the information given to us is what she has.
Time as her.
So, whenever she learns that the Skrull are actually the good guy, that's when we learn it too. And it's kind of like her whole world is flipped upside down, and it is for us too. It was a really good experience. Yeah. And I didn't see it coming at all. It was really enjoyable.
Yeah, a lot of movies have the problem of we know more than the characters know, so then it's not thrilling or suspenseful for us at all.
It does give you, when you know more than the character does, it's kind of more like a why aren't you doing this, or you need to do you know it and you want them to know it, but you can't tell them, which kind of, I see why movie makers would make that decision, because they want you to be on the edge of your seat waiting for them to figure out and see what they want to do with it. But I thought it was more enjoyable to be able to see what she's seeing and go through everything at the same time as her.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way they did, how she, it was very mysterious how she got her powers and how she had amnesia.
Yeah,
she didn't
it
know
wasn't
her past,
just...
And we didn't either. And we discovered it with her, and that's what made it a really great origin story, because it's she doesn't know, we don't know, and we figured it out together, and it's just a totally different than any other origin story has done before. Yeah. I love that part.
Yeah. So we want to do overall closing spoiler thoughts?
I think you should go first while I gather mine.
Okay, so I just feel like maybe this is a unpopular opinion, but I felt like this is one of the better, not best, but better origin stories in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I felt like it did it in a more, maybe not so original, but just really fun way of introducing a character in a way it makes us want to see Endgame even more than we already did, which is probably not even possible. But yeah, I just had a really, really fun time watching this movie, even with its flaws. I know it has problems, I know it has this and that, but in the end, walking out, I just enjoyed myself, and that's really all that matters to me, at least.
Yeah, it was a good movie to watch. It does get slow at points, but it's still entertaining, because you know in the back of your mind this is a Marvel film and it's going to pick up and it's going to find its ground and find its way. I do think it's a middle of the pack, kind of on the lower end of the middle of the pack, but not the
It's definitely worth seeing.
It's not the Incredible Hulk, but it's also not Spider-Man Homecoming as a standalone film, if you're just comparing it in that ballpark. But I do think it's an enjoyable film, and it's good to watch and give you a little bit of something Marvel before Endgame comes out, just to get you wanting to go see it even more than you already did.
Right.
And it just kind of helps set up in a good way, and I enjoy Brie Larson as the Captain Marvel, and I think she's going to do an outstanding job when she gets to portray her role in Endgame. And Peter?
Right, yeah, you guys basically said everything I was going to say, but I give it a solid 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Overall.
Okay. You got your rating out of 10?
I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10, somewhere around there.
Okay. So this has been the Captain Marvel movie review discussion. This is Peter. He has a gaming YouTube channel, Dr. Salt on YouTube. This is Christian. He has just started his Instagram movie TV review account. It's called Everything Movies with a Z on Instagram. Go follow that and like. And then I am Alex.
You gotta plug your own Instagram.
I am. I'm Alex. I am also at the Daily Cinema on Instagram. I do daily movie reviews, news, everything from movies, no matter what it is. And so, yeah.
I think that wraps it up.
Thank you for watching, and make sure to go check out all our channels, posts, like it, subscribe, whatever. And make sure to check out anything that comes down in the future. Thank you.